All right, what's going on, everyone? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. Thank you for watching and for listening. Big shout out to our sponsors, Sunny Reds, Imperial Pizza. You already know the deal with them. I don't want to waste too much time here at the top because there's a lot of stuff that I want to cover today. I am joined right now for my weekly visit. He's on location. He looks kind of handsome right now, man. Got the sunglasses on. If you happen to be watching on the video side, my guy, Matt Warren from SB Nation. I feel like I'm in a news studio and you're out there on the scene somewhere about to give me a report of what's going on. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Everything's good out here. Yeah, I feel like a little bit like Bruce Nolan coming to you from an undisclosed location. But yeah, we got set up. We're outside. It's going to be the theme. I know we're going to talk about training camp and how flipping hot it was, and so it's hot out here too. I'm in the shade, thankfully, but yeah.
Let's all right. So here's what we're going to do, folks. Today, let me set this up. And again, I want to get to a lot. We're going to talk about our biggest Bills training camp takeaways to this point. 6 practices in, the last 2 with pads. The Bills are off as we record this. More on that in a quick second, but we're recording this on Tuesday. The Bills are off, so nothing to talk about new today in terms of camp.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. God, I am the worst at getting days wrong. I do so many of these stupid shows. I don't know what the hell is going on anymore. It is Wednesday. The Bills are off on Wednesday. I was literally at camp in Rochester on Tuesday. We're recording this mid-afternoon on Wednesday. The good, the bad. We're going to go over some of our biggest camp takeaways so far. Matt got a credential on Monday. It was really cool. He was and I saw you a few times on you're on the sidelines. Well, we'll talk about that experience kind of for fans out there, for some people who, have a podcast who've never had a credential, kind of take us behind the ropes a little bit with that as well. A couple thoughts on Rochester. I'm going to get to a lot of stuff today, but I have to address this at the very beginning, Matt, and because quite frankly, I'm very happy that they were wrong because it means Max Harrison is not out for the season, but I want to address something specific because I'm pissed off. And I'm pissed off because it gives people like you and I, quite frankly, and others, a bad name, a bad reputation. All right, so everyone knows Max Harrison hurt his knee at practice on Tuesday. And I'll tell you this, I was on the track alongside, I was talking to Joe DiBiase for WGR, maybe 10 minutes or so after Max went down. It was a non-contact injury, and almost immediately, I don't know if it was a trainer or an assistant coach, but word got back right where we were, and it just said it's significant. That's the only, literally, it said it's significant. Those were the 2 words. It's been a waiting game for, I don't know, maybe 24 hours or so after that. No reporting nationally, no real reporting locally from the media that actually covers the team. This is why I'm kind of annoyed. I'm more than kind of, I am annoyed right now. There is a podcast, and there's going to be no protecting here today. It's Circle the Wagons, okay? I've followed them on Twitter for a while. I've listened to their podcast before. It's a good podcast. I enjoy the banner. They've done a good job, but they put out a report around noon saying confirmed ACL tear for Max Harrison, awful blow or something like that, out for the season. So they put that out there. And I don't know, maybe for a good hour or 2 hours, there was nothing, crickets. And some people paid attention to it. Some people didn't. And then recently, we're recording this, what time is it, around 2 o'clock or so now here on 2:20 on Wednesday afternoon. Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport both reported that he did not tear his ACL, which obviously from a fan perspective of the team, this is incredible news because it did look like he tore his ACL yesterday. I was there. It felt like that's what happened, okay? Anyway, he had an LCL injury, and it's going to be a week-to-week thing. I think Ian Rappaport said it'd be out like maybe 3 weeks or so. So his season's not over. And so why is Patrick pissed off? I'm pissed off because they put that out there, and I'm getting sick and tired of alternative outlets just deciding to take chances, throw caution to the wind. And, our source tells us this. And if you're wrong, well, our source is usually right. It's never been wrong before. I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. That shit don't cut it, man. You have If you want to get in this game and you want to be taken seriously, you have a responsibility. There's an old saying in journalism, and I've learned this the hard way. Trust me, man. I've learned this the hard way, Matt. It's better to be right than to be first. These guys took a chance. Some people actually want to give them credit for that. I think that's asinine. I just think that's crazy. It is reckless and irresponsible to put something out like that. Max Harrison originally tweeted and said, bold-faced lie, and then he immediately deleted it. I'm mad because I know the media pretty well. You know a lot of people in the media too, Matt. We work, people like Talking Buffalo, SB Nation, Cover One, some of the people at Buffalo Rumblings, you just, man, I could go on and on. There's Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, regarded by many as one of the best. You know what I mean? There's a lot of quality, either podcasts or blogs out there. And when bullshit like this happens, you know what the result is? They'll say, I'm sorry, I thought our source was accurate or whatever, and move on. And nobody's going to give a shit. Forget about the facts. By the way, 250,000 views they've accumulated in just a few hours with that report. Literally, 270,000 views as we're recording this mid-afternoon about a Max Harrison ACL tear, which was utterly inaccurate, literally inaccurate. But people like us get bad names. And I know for a fact there's people in the media that look down to people like you and I because of that kind of bullshit. You know what I mean? And let alone the teams, the PR departments, the media relations departments. How are alternative media, how are we supposed to be taken serious when some just have an attitude that, hey, we'll take a chance, we'll throw it out there. Our source told us this. It's too important. It's one thing, a couple of weeks ago, there was that red helmets thing. That was annoying. But in the grand scheme of things, not that big of a deal. Plus, things do happen that's wrong. That's one thing. That's a helmet thing, Mac. This is a knee injury for a first-round pick that you say he tore his ACL, which is basically a 2-year injury for a cornerback. It's just reckless. It's irresponsible. And most importantly, why I'm annoyed when I should be happy that he's not, has a torn ACL. I'm annoyed, Matt, because it gives people like you and I and others who try to do things the right way. It gives us a really bad name. It's a bad look for people like us, not just them.
Yeah, circling the wagons. Yeah, no, you're fine. Circling the Wagons was one of the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network pods for a long time before SB Nation disbanded. The team site podcasts, like they do like really nice podcasts. I like them a lot. We hired them. Obviously, I like them. Breaking news might not be like their forte, and that's okay. Like, I think the last sourced piece that Buffalo Rumblings published was that the Bills' alternative helmet was coming on a specific day, and that's the day it came out. So we were glad that that followed through. But like when you're talking about like single sourced anything, you always have to be very, very careful. And so you have to. That's why the rule in media is usually at least 2 sources, and on especially touchy things, you want 3 or 4 or more of that. So that's just like some of the background information. Like you want more than one source because one source can be wrong, one source can be misled, but it's more likely that if you have multiple sources, it's not going to be wrong. So that's just like how the sausage is made. You want at least 2 to 3 sources on any news that you're going to break.
Yeah, listen. If I have one source on something, it's somebody who I know and I will bet my life is dead, and I mean dead solid. If I don't have firsthand knowledge of it myself, somebody who I know absolutely 100% has firsthand knowledge. And it's, again, the helmet thing, I could kind of understand that. That could get a little confusing, okay? But this is a goddamn torn ACL. Your source, your source lied to you then, okay? And you reported that. And I'm looking right now. Now they're over 300,000 views. And they followed it up minutes later after that original tweet saying our sources confirmed this at noon. So, I mean, they've had multiple follow-up tweets. And I'm getting rid of Twitter for the next 40 minutes or so while we're on the show because we'll end up talking about this the whole damn episode when I got a lot of Bill stuff that I know fans want to get into. But again, some fans will look down on stuff like this. My guy, Maniac, I was just with him yesterday. I've seen him every day at camp. I love Maniac, man. He's a grinder, a good dude. And he's a good content creator, but I disagree with him. He said to me, so your answer to thinking something is 100% is to just not put it out there out of fear? Yes. Yes, that is my answer. That is quite literally my answer. 100%, absolutely. Because there needs to be consequence when you're wrong. because again, it is a bad look. No one's going to take them serious. How many followers? Because if they would have been right, it would have been news that we expected. Now they're wrong. They're going to lose, and I feel bad for them in a way. They're going to lose because they're inexperienced. They've probably never been through this before. Now they made themselves a story. They're going to lose a lot of followers, or people are going to ridicule them for some time to come when they put out a tweet. This is going to keep coming back to them, and no one's going to take them serious now. And it's just really unfortunate. So to Maniac's point, yes, absolutely out of fear. Don't do it unless you, to your point, you got multiple sources or you know firsthand.
Now, they were the ones that reported that there was going to be like the gray and blue helmet and not the red helmet, right?
Which one?
The Maniac over there.
Yeah, they I don't know what they said. I just know that they said Pay the Bills said that there wasn't going to be red helmets this year.
Gotcha.
So, which again, I mean, maybe this is coming because I know one of the people from that podcast, and I know he's somebody you could take serious. You know what I mean? That I'm not saying things don't, sometimes a source, to your point, you're not doing it the right way. You can't rely on just one person.
Why, like sometimes wires do get crossed, and like the Bills, I do think are going to like potentially end up releasing another helmet. They have another game that they can use an alternate helmet on. We saw the ice uniform, like, preview thing. So like they very well like may have just heard that, oh yeah, there's going to be an alternate helmet, but it's not the red helmet, and run with that as like a definitive thing, whereas it's in addition to the red helmet. And so like I'm not trying to make excuses for anyone, but that's one of the reasons why you get clarification from secondary sources so that you can triangulate instead of just like, report the one thing that you think but like you may just have one word wrong. That's all it takes is one word.
If you want the shine and the credit that you deserve for being right about something, then you better damn well be able to accept the fact that there's deservedly so justifiable consequence with being wrong. The helmet thing, like I said, that could potentially be a miscommunication thing like you just explained. Maybe you gather that information a little bit wrong. Having a source multiple times tweet and say that somebody tore their ACL, it's either you tore your ACL or you didn't. He didn't even hurt his ACL, dude. It was his LCL. So, I mean, that you couldn't be more wrong. I think it's reckless, like I said, to put stuff out there. And most importantly, I think it's a bad look for the entire podcasting and blog community when shit goes down like that, because it's hard to get the casual fan to take people like you and I serious to begin with. We're already fighting every day to have credibility and to be taken serious, and stuff like that. It just makes it all that more harder. All right. Anyway, I didn't mean to, this was not planned. This happened literally minutes before we went on the air. I got some stuff that we'll get to towards the end, but let's just dive into training camp right now. I do in a little bit. I want to get your experience from being there as a member of the media, credentialed, which I hope that it doesn't become a harder thing in the future because of stuff like this. It's not going to. I'm being sarcastic. But anyway, let's talk about the good things first. Okay, I got a list of a handful of things. To me, maybe one of my favorite things that I've seen, and I've been to the last 3 practices at camp, is James Cook. I keep going back to this. We expected in the report after minicamp, we did not know if he was going to be a full participant or not. Was it going to be a hold-in? That was probably the big mystery going into training camp for the Bills. Probably something that HBO was going to make a primary talking point. Well, if HBO was looking for James Cook drama, they're not getting it, because James Cook has been in every practice. He's participated fully in every practice. And what I've noticed with my own eyes, Matt, is he looks electric right now. There's just a level to him. There was one play specifically on Monday. He took a handoff outside, and Taylor Rapp was out there in the perimeter, and he just beat Rapp to the spot. And he ended up getting like a 12, 15-yard gain before going out of bounds. That Ray Davis and Ty Johnson they're not going to make that play. Talk about that. James Cook being here, being a participant, and I know you saw some with your own eyes on Monday. He looks the part, dude. He looks like he's ready to have a big year. If I'm a fantasy football owner, I think this week is made me want to put stock in James Cook.
Yeah, I missed the first week of training camp when the pads weren't on. And so the day that you were talking about, Monday, was the first day with pads on. So you could start to at least see some of like the full contact stuff and everything like that. And yes, Cook looked really nice there. I've liked what I saw from really all of the running backs. when I saw them in there. And of course, they're bringing back all the running backs from last year. So we have a pretty good expectation of what they're going to do. What we haven't seen so far, to throw a little cold water on the James Cook fire, is that we haven't seen him working into like the pass pro 2-minute drill type of stuff. So it doesn't look like he's going to get an increased role on third down. I mean, obviously he was very successful last year in the role that he was in, but he wants to be that 3-down running back. And it doesn't look like the Bills are inclined to go out of their way to do that right now.
I will say, for what it's worth, and you're right, I agree with what you said, but for what it's worth, on Tuesday, Matt, they were doing this the first time I seen it at camp. Well, it's only the second day with pads. They were doing one-on-one pass blocking drills.
Okay.
And James Cook, I only saw 2 reps. One of them was, I believe, I know Lofosio, and I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, he looked really good. I was like, all right. But then but then it was weird because it's like he did 2 reps and then he was kind of in the back, on the backs. He's like, all right, I'm going to chill out now. And it was a lot of Ray Davis and a lot of Ty Johnson and a lot of Frank Gore Jr. And not a lot of the
thing, though, you know? Like,
yeah, not a lot of James Cook. But I was like, the 2 reps he did have, he looked really, really good. So anyway, that's a big camp takeaway that I have, is any fear of James Cook either not being there physically or maybe not being there mentally where he's ready to give you 100%. I think that's an unfounded fear, because he looks like he looked better than ever to me. Another one, I think it was on Monday. It was the title of our podcast that day. Keon Coleman. He's been stacking good days. Now, I was not there for day 1 at camp. Reportedly, Christian Bedford was on him a lot, and Keon Coleman did not have much success. To be fair, I think Christian Bedford could shadow a lot of receivers around the NFL, and you probably would have the same outcome. So maybe that's not a very fair bar to judge if a receiver is good or not. Anyway, he has looked incredibly well to me over the past couple days. He is getting down. He's making plays at all 3 levels of the field in practice anyway. I seen him high point a ball from Dorian Strong. Dorian Strong is going to have some goddamn nightmares about Keon Coleman, by the way, because Keon Coleman has had his way with him on a lot of reps that I saw. But anyway, he's high pointing the ball, breaking off routes, 10, 12, 15-yard catches. Things break down, which that's kind of his forte. We saw that last year when Josh starts moving. He finds an area to get open to, and we've seen a couple of completions like that. But look, you know this too. It's practice. Let's not get too crazy, but I'm a lot more optimistic about Keon Coleman right now than I was Sunday at 9:44 a.m. before practice starts. Let's just put it that way. I like what I've seen from Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I got to the one-on-one passing drills late on Monday because I really wanted to see, with the pads on, I want to see the defensive tackles, and I'm sure we'll talk about the defensive tackles in a second. The first play that I was down there, I saw him beat, I can't remember what corner it was, just because, like I said, I was coming in late. He beat the cornerback. I think it was pass interference. The cornerback kind of grabbed him, but then he put his arm up and like the ball was in the bucket and he didn't come down with it. And I was kind of disappointed, but then I'm like, well, he probably drew a pass interference. He had a clean break against the cornerback, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. I'm waiting to see the consistent Keon Coleman before I'm like, you're talking about him stacking days. Like I'm waiting to see it like day in and day out before I'm like fully committed to it. But I mean, certainly in the practice that I was there watching every snap on, I thought he played really, really well. I mean, he can beat the cornerback. I wanted him to haul in that pass, the nice deep pass down the sideline. But like I said, I think he would have drawn the pass interference anyway. So yeah, all together, I thought he was very good in the practice that I saw, and I've heard great things from around the Bills beat.
Yeah, he does have to do it in the game. So it's the consistency. We go back to last year. You and I have talked about this. There were stretches. I remember specifically that Tennessee game, that Seattle game. I was like, yo, this is a man. This is a man among boys, it looks like at times, and no other disappearing acts. I haven't seen any disappearing act at camp at all whatsoever so far. Let's stay with that position because Josh Palmer looks pretty. I don't want to short sell him. I say it looks effortless sometimes when he's running routes. It doesn't even look like he's trying hard. It's just there. He's a much better. The book on him, from what I remember, was that he could separate off the line and that he can get down the field and make plays, of a vertical threat. I am seeing a guy who just looks like he's not even trying hard and he's still getting open. He's like, it just looks effortless right now with the way he's running his routes. He catches everything. I don't think I've seen him. Maybe you have on Monday. I don't recall seeing a ball drop to the ground that's been thrown to Josh Palmer yet. This camp, at least from what I've seen anyway. There was a lot of kind of mystery. It felt like it was Khalil Shakir and then everybody else at wide receiver. Now I'm starting to feel, again, early, but it's Khalil Shakir, it's Keon Coleman, it's Josh Palmer, and then it's everybody else. Like, I think your top three right now is pretty well defined. And if there was any doubt, Matt, I think Josh Palmer has squashed that. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far. He looks like I was not happy that Matt Collins left. I don't give a shit anymore because Josh Palmer is a clear and present upgrade from Matt Collins or Amari Cooper. I'll even throw Amari Cooper up there as well. I'm very impressed with Josh Palmer.
The word I've been using to describe Palmer is fluid. Like, it just looks like he's, like, especially when you compare him to a guy like Keon Coleman, who isn't quite as like naturally fluid. He gets in and out of his breaks so clean. It's just really nice to watch him. I think he had one pass breakup, but that was a good play by the cornerback as opposed to like a drop from Palmer on Monday. So like, I agree with you. And I mean, we're going to talk about injuries later, but I mean, the fact that he's been getting just so many reps and, because Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore and now Terrell Shavers have all been out. Like, he's been like, not like anybody's even there to push him for those first team reps now. So it's been certainly a good camp for both him and Keon Coleman as far as like establishing themselves with that first team, because like, it's not necessarily going to be like, well, who's the starter and everything like that. We've talked about this over and over again with all these guys. Like, it's how many snaps are they going to be playing?
Yeah.
How many routes are they going to be running? How much opportunity are they going to be getting? And so if they can tick up another 5-10% in that category because Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore are out, like, it's just going to increase their value even more, even if, we're talking about like, quote unquote, the top three or the starters or whatever.
I think the battle for wide receiver snaps starts at wide receiver 4 at this point. Like, who's going to be wide receiver 4? That's still TBD right now. Let's switch sides because I just said that I rarely have seen Josh Palmer lose a rep. Well, he did lose a rep on Tuesday. I'll get my days right. You made me think twice now. Now you're inside my head. Anyway, Tuesday they were doing goal line drills one-on-one. And Josh Palmer was lined up with Tre White. And Palmer tried to get inside on Tre, and Tre wasn't having it. Now, to be fair, maybe a flag, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, he tries to break back to the outside. Tre's right there with him, and Josh Allen threw the ball, and Tre picked it off. Interception, throws the ball to the crowd. I seen 3 or 4 really sticky physical plays on the positive side from Tre White at practice on Tuesday. This guy, I think he would start. If Max Harrison doesn't injure his knee, I felt confident enough to tell you I think Tre White is certainly going to start regardless. Now it's a lock, obviously, but Tre White, from what I've seen in camp so far, looks like Tre White the first month of 2023, where he was really good in camp and he carried into the regular season before he unfortunately got hurt. Second major injury against Miami, I believe it was week 3 at the end of that game. I'm feeling really good about Tre White. Everything I've seen from him to this point anyway.
I was surprised at how few top snaps Maxwell Harrison was even playing. It was Tre White taking all of those first team reps at CB2. And so I was at least expecting him to mix in a little bit. And I think I only saw him take 1 or 2 snaps with the first team. So that it was an indication to me even before the Harrison injury that they really like what they're seeing out of Tre White so far. And honestly, that's a great sign for the Bills' depth right now, with or without Maxwell Harrison's injury. Just that they can count on more than one person. You can never have too many cornerbacks, as we have seen with Tre White's injury, now with Maxwell Harrison's injury, we saw it with Christian Benford's injury, in the playoffs. Guys are going to get hurt at that position. Having too many of them is not a bad thing.
Now, I'll say this, being objective here and being a little unbiased, removing the fandom from me. I said that I've liked what I've seen from Tre White. I did go into camp on Tuesday, and I remember I tweeted out, there's 3 things I'd really like to see at camp. One of them was Tre White getting tested, and he passed all those tests except for one. I still have one concern about Tre White. Can he run downfield? If a guy gets off the line, if it's an intermediate to a long route, can Tre White run with whoever it's going to be? And there was a play on Tuesday, and I know they put a clip out, so at least people saw the completion. People didn't see the coverage, but it was Tre White and it was Damar Hamlin with Stephen Gosnell. Okay, and there was the Josh Allen bomb to Gosnell for a touchdown. Trey got burned. I don't want to say Trey got burned because I don't know what the coverage was supposed to be. Damar Hamlin and White were both there. Maybe White was supposed to run to him and then let him go to Hamlin. I don't know. Maybe Hamlin just didn't get there in time. It could be a combination of both of them. I don't know. But here's what I know. Gosnell blew past Tre White, all right, and he caught a touchdown, and Trey was animatedly pissed off on the sidelines. The boom mic was there. I guarantee you, folks, book this.
Hard Knock spoiler.
Book this right now. You can write this in Sharpie. You want to talk about sources? I don't need no source. I'll tell you this. Take the Sharpie and write it down. Tre White getting beat. That touchdown pass will be on HBO Hard Knocks, and Tre White talking like this on the sidelines with his coach, teammates. The boom mic was there. He's going to talk about that. That will be a bit on Hard Knocks on Tuesday, August 5th. You can take that to the bank. But anyway, my whole point was just him running down the field. Can he keep up with those receivers? That's what I still need to see. But everything else I've really liked. One more guy too, Matt Milano. I mean, you can make a case that Matt Milano might be the defensive MVP right now of training camp. I did manage to take a video on Monday. Just happy. I only took like 3 videos that whole day, and 2 of them were big plays. And one of them was it was KJ Hamler taking a short pass, running towards the sideline, and Matt Milano just said, I don't like you having the football in your hands, man. I'm gonna clean your clock. And he hit him pretty hard down to the ground, got the crowd going. You were there, you saw it. He has looked really good every day. He had an interception on Josh Allen. It was not so much an athletic play as him just kind of outsmarting Josh. He peeled off Dalton Kincaid. Then he went back when Josh was throwing the ball, and it ended up being an easy pick for Milano on Tuesday. Man, if you're looking for something to really hold your hat on with this defense, and Matt Milano might be it, because it looks to me like that playmaking Matt Milano of a few years ago. If he can stay healthy, obviously the big thing, but he looks like he's all the way back right now.
Yeah, and Brandon Beane talked about it heading into the offseason. Like, this is the first offseason in a few years that Matt Milano wasn't actively rehabbing an injury. So he could just work on getting ready and getting better for the season, and not fixing his chicken wing or, working on his like broken leg or whatever it happens to be. So, I mean, the fact he's always had great instincts. And so like him, like tricking Josh Allen into throwing an interception didn't surprise me. He's always been like that hard-nosed guy. So him tackling KJ Hamler to the ground, during a training camp practice in July also did not surprise me. It got a good reaction from both sidelines. But if he can really be this fast and keep playing at this level, I mean, and he's going to be like, he could be a big impact on this defense going forward.
God, he really good, man. And it's exciting. There's not a lot to be excited about at training camp. Joe from Queens is probably cringing right now listening to us talking about good points from training camp, because to him it means absolutely nothing except injuries, which we're about to get into. A couple guys I just want to throw honorable mention to. We don't need to talk about specifically, but I think Balin Spector has had a good first week of camp. With Bernard out there, he's been getting a lot of first-team reps, maybe more so than Andreessen. And he's looked pretty good. -1 rep where Osiris Torrance just almost killed him. But besides that, Balin Spector's looked good. I mentioned Damar Hamlin. I think Damar Hamlin has had a solid first week. I think he's locked in as the number 3 safety right now. Tyrell Shavers, he got an opportunity because of injuries on Sunday, and man, he was playing some good-ass football, but then he unfortunately got hurt on the last play of practice. He'll be okay, but still, missing a day matters. But anyway, he's looked good. And then Ed Oliver, who I think is Aaron Donald every July at St. John Fisher, he just looks when he feels like playing, he's just unblockable. And there's been some moments where he's really looked like that. Anyone else before we take a quick break? Did I cover anybody? Is there anyone else that you notice either yourself Monday or that you've heard about that, you've heard some or seen some good things?
Yeah, there's several folks who have been talking about the draft pick at tight end, Jackson Hawes.
Mm.
He's been getting a lot of opportunity because Dawson Knox hasn't taken a training camp snap yet, and Dalton Kincaid missed today. So he's been getting a lot of run, a lot of individualized work with Rob Boris, the tight ends coach. So he's been impressing a lot of the veterans in his first training camp. So he's a guy I wanted to point out. Not that I think it's going to change like the tight end depth chart or anything, but we got to give credit where credit is due. And then I've been hearing some Javon Solomon love from people other than Pat Moran, which was kind of a little bit surprising to me. I was there on Monday, and the clearest player interaction that I had was I was standing there right before practice, right behind like the defensive bench, just trying to see who was actually out on the field at that moment. And Lose Yourself by Eminem came on, and he comes over and he's rapping every single word to that after he tells me, hey, what's up? He's like, hey, what's up? And then he just like really goes into it. He didn't listen for my response. He just started rapping the lyrics. So he was vibing. And then, he had some really nice run reps as well when I was watching the run fits later. And so, like, I mean, he might be a guy that really is like, because I think he's going to make the roster based on special teams prowess just by itself and the fact that he can provide some snaps at defensive end. But like, I mean, he might be trying to work his way into that defensive end rotation. We'll see if there's spots available for him.
All right, let's take a quick break. Come back on the other side. We'll get to some of the things that I have not really liked at camp and a few other things we'll touch on too as well. So be right back, folks. All right, back here with Matt Warren, quite literally on location, if you could see it on the video side. Sound good, though, man. You look good. I want to say one thing, too. If we have a couple minutes at the end, people might have thought I lost my shit at the beginning when we addressed the whole erroneous report stuff. It's a personal reason for me, and I like people to learn from a mistake that I made. If I got time, we'll hit on that at the very end of the show. But on the negative side, one weekend, I mean, it's obvious. The big thing far and away is the injuries. They have really, really taken a toll on the Buffalo Bills. And Max Harrison, good news on the injury front in terms of what it could have been. So he's going to probably be out, let's just say 3 weeks, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. His opportunity to potentially win the job in the preseason, that's gone. So, that's not good. I've also, we'll get to Max Harrison specifically in a second, but Spencer Brown, still his back. I mean, we're a week in. He has not been out there. I have not really heard any updates on him. Back inflammation. Mm-hmm. This is a recurrent issue with Spencer Brown. He played all but one game last year, but he had back surgery 3 years ago. That's concerning. Dalton Kincaid, it was only one practice that he missed, but again, for the same reason as last year, the knee. And he had a sleeve on when he didn't practice. That's concerning. Dawson Knox, we haven't seen him. That's concerning. Curtis Samuel, good potential, just doesn't stay on the field. He's been out for the last 3 practices now, hamstring. That's concerning. Terrell Bernard, one of the better playmaking middle linebackers in the NFL. Well, what's the concern on him? Being on the field and staying healthy. He's got a hamstring. That's concerning. There's others too. Tyrell Shavers starting to make a play to get on this roster. He gets hurt. So, dude, the injuries have been pretty brutal, Matt, so far. We're only a week in.
Right. Shavers is the one that's going to be the exception to this, but like pretty much everyone you mentioned, actually Balin Spector's another one that was in and out a little bit with an injury too, but Brown, Knox, Samuel, Bernard, Hairston, these guys we know are going to make the team. And so I think for a guy like Dalton Kincaid, when they hold him out of practice like that, it's more of a precaution than anything else. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, we should be really be worried that Dawson Knox hasn't taken a training camp snap yet. Like I understand like that. Yes, that could eventually lead to us being concerned about him. But I think at this point, they're definitely erring on the side of caution, which again, is like, I was surprised that Nick Bosa was taking team reps on Monday when I was there because they've been so careful about the number of reps he takes. And so they're definitely erring on like the super cautious side. But like of the players that you mentioned, I'm not necessarily worried about anybody until I have a reason to be, like, especially with a guy like Spencer Brown. Like if his back is really going to be bothering him in the season, that's a really, really, really big concern. But it doesn't feel like when they talk about him in the press conferences that there's like a level of concern that he won't be ready for the regular season.
Bernard, again, these are, I don't know.
Bernard
maybe it's just because
So on
he's
Monday,
missed time.
Bernard and Williams and Dorian Williams were both
Yes.
working on the bikes during like the warm-up session, but they came onto the field for the defensive install period when they were just like doing the walkthrough stuff.
Yeah.
So like if they were like really concerned about their health, they wouldn't have even been on the field for the walkthrough. So again, it's just another indicator that like these guys are close. They're holding them back instead of pushing them out.
I would say with Spencer Brown, what also concerns me is based on what I've seen, and let me preface this, man. I am no O-line, D-line guru whatsoever. Like, I'm never going to have a podcast where I give you in-depth analysis on how the offensive line looks. I promise you that. Probably ditto for the defensive line. You get sacks, you get tackles for loss. That's what I know about you. But anyway, Ryan Vandermark and Tylen Grable have been kind of alternating. I'd say probably 60-ish% of the time is Vandermark out there. But Grable's getting some run, and I haven't really seen too much to be impressed about from either of them. So obviously Spencer Brown is a really big one. In terms of Max Hairston, look, this just happened on Tuesday. I mean, he's had 5.5 practices before that. From what I've seen, you were there Monday. It's been a very up and down start. Now, that's not to be completely unexpected. So I'll say that. You see the speed. There's a couple plays where you could just the closing speed. I mean, it's just there, and it's unmistakable as well. But consistency, but it's tough to call it. What do we expect from a rookie 5 days into camp?
Yeah, and he was another guy that like one of the big concerns was that he was going to be too small to hold up over the course of a long season, at least at the weight he was at. And so obviously this was a freak injury. It was not like didn't have anything to do with his size, but like it was in the second padded practice. We didn't even get to address like some of the concerns that we've had about Maxwell Harrison since he was drafted. Like, and when I say concerns, it's like, lowercase c concern. I'm not like super like concerned about Maxwell Harrison, but like we're not going to get to see him at all in training camp or the preseason. Like he might be like game day inactive like for a long time until there's another injury at the cornerback position. And so he might be able to work on all of those things throughout the season during practices to get kind of that stuff under his, get his legs under him a little bit more.
I would, yeah.
Think about Cole Bishop last year. Like Cole Bishop gets hurt during the preseason or training camp, doesn't play at all in the preseason, only gets brought in like during the regular season when there's an injury at safety. And then now coming into year 2, like he's like bona fide number 1 locked in starter. So if we get that out of Maxwell Harrison in the same kind of way, I mean, I think most of us would be probably okay with that.
Am I allowed to include Cole Bishop in both the good and the bad from what I've seen in camp?
Great. I thought he looked great when I was out there. I know Sean McDermott and Taron Johnson couldn't stop talking about the relationship that Rapp and Bishop have together and how they've been communicating. And so, I mean, I liked what I've seen, but I mean, you've been to more practices than I have, so go ahead.
Well, I mean, he did look good on Monday. I agree with you. There were other times. Here's the biggest thing. He got hurt on Tuesday. Yep. Now, I don't think it was a major injury. He left with trainers. He did come back, and he did have his helmet on, and he was on the sidelines, but he didn't take any more reps after he left. And I don't even know what happened to him. But again, he's another one of these guys. I should have included him in the little, at least bumps and bruises that can you rely on him? He did have a couple plays. I can't remember if it was Monday or not. There was one down the field play where he made a really nice, I think it might have been him and Tre White that combined to break up a deep pass on somebody. I don't know. By and large, what I'm saying is it's good because I'm happy that the Bills are saying we're going with Cole Bishop. And that's obvious. We thought this might be a positional battle between him, DeMar, and Derek Forrest. Not the case. Cole Bishop starting. He's taken almost every single first team rep with every team drill that they've done. But again, him, even if it's just a half a practice, that concerns me because it's happened a few times with him already, including this spring. And I don't know, man. I mean, maybe you saw stuff I didn't. That's the fun part about having 2 sets of eyes instead of 1. You might see something that I don't see or vice versa. He's just been okay to me. Who did I just mention? Derek Forrest? I'll go to him quickly next. This is the guy that in 2022 had 4 interceptions with Washington that I thought the Bills were going to be really, really high on because he's barely playing. He got in a fight with a line. I don't remember which one it was. He got in a scuffle near the end of practice yesterday. Besides, that's the only noise he's made the whole camp. I've been looking for him, and he's not out there. DeMar Hamlin is working backup free and strong safety. I'm telling you, he's the 3. I don't know if they're going to keep 4 pure safeties because I think Jordan Hancock, who took some reps for the first time, at least I saw him taking reps at free safety on Tuesday, or Cam Lewis, who's had safety experience. I think both those guys are going to make the roster. I think Derek Forrest, you want to talk about a guy who's already might have his back up against the wall, who better have a really good preseason. It might be him. Issue is, I'm barely seeing him on the field. Like he's getting some second team and some third team reps. Nothing with the first team at all.
Yeah, welcome to the Bills practice squad. So yeah, I think that's probably where, like, because to your point, they're probably going to keep 3 pure safeties. If they keep a 4th safety that's a pure safety, it'll be also for special teams reasons. And Forrest can certainly play special teams and be like on, a core 4 guy there and make this roster. But as far as safeties go, they want that spot to be variable. So they want a guy that can play cornerback and safety. So because they're, the fourth safety, like they want a guy that can be position versatile and contribute on special teams. And so you've got, Cam Lewis, you've got Dorian Strong, and so you've got like other players that can fit into that role that, like, if he doesn't distinguish himself on special teams, I don't see a way for him to make the roster.
What was the other guy that I wanted to go to next? Actually, it's not a guy, it's a position. And again, maybe I was expecting or hoping for somebody to jump off the page at me, but the 3 defensive linemen that the Bills took in the draft, I haven't really seen anything. Now, to be fair, 6 practices, the first 4, no pads, and I don't think you can put any real stock into anything on the line with no pads, but back-to-back padded practices. You were there for Monday. Mm-hmm. Maybe you saw something. Dan Walker, TJ Sanders, Landon Jackson. I'm not a defensive line guy too much, so I'm not the guy to speak on it perhaps, but I'm not seeing much so far.
Yeah. One of the other problems with the defensive line work is that when I was watching them, it was harder to see who was going up against them. I couldn't quite tell who the offensive lineman was all the time. And so, like, I watched a Deion Walker rep where I thought he looked like a very large physical human, just like, busting somebody up and getting into the backfield. And I found out it was against like the 3rd string, like left guard. So it's like, okay, yeah, he looked great, but who is he up against? So, he's a very large human. I'm really hoping that his back issues are behind him and he can get back to that, like, first round, hopefully sort of talent that we saw a couple of years ago. One thing I did see on the defensive line, as we're continuing to talk about them, is Dwayne Carter is running 3rd team 1 tech defensive tackle right now. That is not a great sign for that guy. So I'm wondering, like, I'm not necessarily ready to like make a 53-man roster projection with him not on it, because he is position versatile between 1 tech and 3 tech, and they have so many suspensions right off the bat at the beginning of the season. But Dwayne Carter has some work to do going on here.
He also didn't practice on Tuesday because of an illness, and so he's not helping himself there if he's trying to climb up the depth chart or possibly even, end up making a team. I'll point that out too. See, now there's a player that I kind of disagree with, and it's weird to come from me because I was talking him up so much in the camp. I haven't really seen much from Javon Solomon to this point, and I'm trying to be careful because it's like, you don't want to get too high and you don't want to get too low. They haven't even played a preseason game. Maybe he goes out and he has 2 great series against the Giants on August 8th. And I'm not even talking about this silly shit right now. But right now it's like, I'm looking at I guess I'm spending a lot of time. You mentioned Joe Bosa, which, by the way, Bosa also did team drills on Tuesday. And he did a lot more on Tuesday than he did on Monday. I probably could have easily thrown him in things I liked because he looked really good on Tuesday. But you're seeing Groot with either Epinesa or Bosa, depending on what day it was. Then the other guy with Hoyt would be the 4th, and Landon Jackson getting Javon Sullivan feels to me like the 6th defensive end right now. Now he'll move up to 5th because Hoyt's going to get suspended for the first 6 games. But I haven't seen much from Javon Sullivan. And then the other guy's fellow 5th round pick, Olafosio. I'm telling you right now, dude, barring a couple of injuries, I don't think he's making the team. He's not getting out there. Shaq Thompson is taking 4-3 reps back up, with Bernard out, with Dorian Williams out. it's been Shaq Thompson getting the looks and not Olafosio, which is very surprising, by the way. It almost feels like the Bills have more or less given up on Olafosio from what I've seen.
He had at least one nice play on a run fill on Monday, but yeah, I mean, it's a numbers game. Like there, he's going to have to beat out Spectre, and I mean, if he can do that, especially if Spectre gets nicked up again. So I mean, we got a long way to go, but it really is a roster battle between that Spectre, Olafosio, and I guess Shaq Thompson. But like you said, I think Thompson's kind of like a level above them right now when it comes to making the roster.
Last one. And this is another one I'm not disagreeing with you because I haven't seen you really talking about, but seen a lot of people on Twitter talking up the play of Dorian Strong. And I'm going to be honest with you now. This is 3 straight practices. I've kind of paid attention to him too. I'm not seeing it. I don't think this has been a good early training camp for Dorian Strong. I've seen him get beat multiple times by Keon Coleman. I've seen him struggle in some other drills. Who was it? Deon Cain, who signed on Monday, he smoked Dorian Strong down the right sideline. And Mr. Trubisky probably threw the best pass he's ever thrown as a Buffalo Bill. Deon Cain runs under it, and it was bam. It would have been a 65-yard touchdown, but Dorian Strong got smoked by Deon Cain on that rep. He's making the team. I'm going to stop short of saying he's in trouble. He's making the team. He's on every special teams unit. I was paying attention to that. He's going to be a core 4 special team guy. But for people, especially with Harrison going down, thinking maybe Dorian Strong steps up, instead of people, he's the primary backup corner who could play right now, I look at him more as a Saron Neal than I do a legitimate NFL corner. Right now, that could change, but right now, that's how I feel.
Yeah, Albert Breer, the columnist at Sports Illustrated, was at Bills camp, I think on Tuesday, and wrote a nice little review of Dorian Strong and said, like, he's in line to get more snaps now with Maxwell Harrison out. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I haven't seen anything where he's played his way into more snaps. I mean, yes, obviously he's going to get more snaps because Maxwell Harrison's not there, but I haven't seen anything where he's like, I don't know, demanding more snaps because he's playing so well.
Yeah. Well, Dane Jackson's going to move up the depth chart now. Yep. I think he was a very long shot to make this team. Now I think he probably could. Well, he's more in line to make. Yeah, we got to see what Harrison, but he's more in line to make the team. Max Harrison, maybe he starts the season off on IR first 4 games. I could see that scenario. Dane Jackson is much more in line to make this team now than he was a couple days ago. Let's put it that way. But it was Harrison and Strong out there getting most of second team reps with Dane Jackson working with the 3s before Harrison. So, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, by and large, it's primarily the injuries that have been the only real bad. In terms of the ugly, I only got one thing for you, dude. You are standing outside. I don't know how you feel, but you look comfortable. It was not comfortable at St. John Fisher all 3 days I was there. Sunday, it was humid. It rained sideways the last half hour, and I'm talking about it poured. And then Monday, you were there. I'll tell you. So I was up on the side of the press box, at the very top, right off to the side of the press box, right off the side of it outside. And I was talking to the security person there. She told me it wasn't the hottest that she's ever seen St. John's Fisher, but she told me it was the hottest she's ever seen it that early. Like, meaning usually it gets stupid hot. It's like 10:30, 11. At 8:45, before 9 o'clock, it was crazy hot. Monday or Tuesday was even worse, dude. It was just as bad. At least I got some shade. I was in the hospitality tent area, so I got to go in there at least a couple times. But not much of a break. No wind, just straight up heat at St. John Fisher, man. So if you want to talk about ugly, the ugly is people trying to keep dry clothes on their body because the underwear, the shirt, the socks, everything was just drippy. I can't imagine how hot these players must be. Now, KJ Hamler had a heat issue on Monday when you were there. There was another player too. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, dude, it was just too hot. It's too hot, man. And I hate being that guy who complains about the heat because I bitch all the time when it's too cold and the sun never comes out for a month in January and February, whatever it may be. But a war of attrition. You were there Monday, man. It was hot as shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had I had my thermometer on the back of my bag just to keep checking in with it, and it was over 90 degrees by the time they called practice at
Mhm.
11:30. So it wasn't even in like the hottest parts of the day yet. Um, right after practice, I was, I don't know, say 10 yards away from Mike Edwards, who was the other player that had the heat related illness on Monday, and he went down. Like, I mean, he was in a real bad way. I won't describe too much of it, but they immediately got like the ice towels on him and, got him off the field. But it took, I mean, he's the biggest dude on the entire roster. So it took like the trainers couldn't really get him up and get him off the field. So a couple of the other players came over and helped get him off the field. And I mean, it was scary, but they worked really quickly to tackle that. But it was definitely as hot as I felt there. And it always seems to be the day I come where it's like the hottest freaking day of training camp. Last year I brought the family out, and they got all the games set up for the kids.
Yeah.
And so we're playing like all the games, and it's right in the middle of the blacktop parking lot. And you're just like, I mean, it's head to toe, just sweat. And I've got pictures of like my daughter when she was really little going through like the sprayers at Bill's camp because it was so hot that day too that they set that up. But the Bills staff is very good. They have the hydration station set up. So like, nobody's going to like, people can still get water and things like that. So I think people are making the best of it, but so much of it is like you said, it's like we haven't gotten hardly any rain in the last 8 weeks. And so like, even like on the, if you're not on the bleachers, the ground is like rock hard and yellow. And it's just like, there's no shade at all unless you're in like that hospitality tent. So it was pretty brutal out there.
It really, dude, it really was. And, temperature can be deceiving. It's the breeze. You get a little bit of a relief, little overcast here and there, and you could deal with it. Just a little break. But there was no break to be had Monday or Tuesday.
No clouds.
No, nothing at all. And listen, I'm being honest with you. I mean, I was all into the bit, man. I was committed. I got a hotel room. I stayed in Rochester Sunday, Monday, and through Tuesday. I left Tuesday afternoon after practice. So I was all in. I'm telling you, I almost left the St. John Fisher on Tuesday. I was just too hot. I couldn't take it anymore. The only thing that kept me from not leaving was the fact that I didn't park and drive. I actually went to Pittsford Sutherland and took the shuttle, which, by the way, first time I've ever done that. That's good money. If you're only going there one day and you could pay $25 to park, I would just park. But if you're going to be there 3 straight days, you're talking it's $1 as opposed to $25 a day. 70-something bucks to save. That's a couple dinners while you're in town. So, man, and plus it's fine. The shuffle, there was no issues. It went perfectly smooth. But yeah, dude, I almost left on Tuesday. Now, Monday, this is a funny story that unfortunately no one's ever going to get to see, but you know the story. So it was so hot, I was literally dripping. I mean, I was dripping with sweat. So I said, F this. I'm not doing this show. And say I was originally going to do it on the side of the field, off to the corner, get the nice backdrop for the video. I was like, I'm dying. It's too hot. I left. I go to Pittsford Dairy, get in the shades. I did not know you were going to be there. About 20 minutes in, so I'm taping a solo show. My remote setup, I got a wireless mic, my cell phone camera with a lens. And Matt Moran shows up. He's at Pittsford Dairy as well. You did like a 10-minute little cameo with me. Unfortunately, the recording didn't work. So I had to go back to my hotel and record it. And then for the third time this year, I forgot to schedule it. I saved it in my drafts and never published overnight. And I published it in the middle of the afternoon yesterday, which ended up being, of course, a complete wash. So what a damn nightmare. But I'll tell you what, Pittsford Dairy, by the way, love that place. I got a chocolate milkshake all 3 days I was there. You had an interesting guest behind you there too. Tell people about that.
Yeah. So I went to the after I got lunch, I saw that you tweeted out that you were going to be at Pittsford Dairy, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want to go over there anyway. So I went over there, crashed your podcast for a little bit, and then I walked inside.
That was funny. I did not know you were going to be there either.
As soon as I went inside, Bill's long snapper Reed Ferguson came in and was right behind me with his whole family, and they had little kids running around and banging on the glass and looking at the cookies and all that stuff, and it was really fun. I feel comfortable sharing this. They were debating whether or not they could get an entire gallon of that Pittsford Dairy milk back to Western New York, back to Orchard Park before it
Mm.
went bad. And they were debating like what the length of time would be that it would go bad in the car with the air conditioning and all that other stuff. So it was a very fun little conversation that, because like I was there by myself, so I wasn't talking to anybody. So I could just like people watch. And so obviously there was a lot of Bills fans there, people in their Bills gear, and then Reed Ferguson right behind me.
That was that. That's a funny story. I enjoy my time in Rochester. That's the first. So I've been to Bill's camp a handful of times, or plenty of times through the years, but it's always a trip there, and then I just come. I go to practice. I might grab a little some, and then I just go right back to Buffalo. This is the first time I stayed in a hotel. Had a couple wing spot like the Bar Bill East. I went there. I gotta be honest with you, dude. Unimpressed. There's a difference. Might be the same name.
You can get a seat there. So let's start there. You can always get a seat there.
Lots of seats there. You're right.
And I mean, as far as like wing places in Rochester go, it's on the short list. Just say.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, man. I went there. Beef on Weck was the bomb. I couldn't help myself. I got beef on Weck and wings, so I got them both. But you're right. I got a seat right away. That felt weird to me. I've never been to Eastern Aurora Bar Bill in my life and not had to wait. So I get a seat. I got the Josh Allen wings, the Cajun barbecue honey butter, whatever the hell. They were fine. They could have used a little more. Now they're not supposed to be saucy because they paint their shit on, but it was borderline dry. And like 3 of the wings were tiny, and you get 10 wings. That's 30% of your order. So not really great there, Bob. But the beef was bomb.
Did you end up getting to Jeremiah's? They've been voted the #1 wing spot in Rochester a few different times.
Nope, I haven't been. I'll tell you what. If I go back next week, which I'm tentatively planning on doing the same thing next week that I did this past week, I will. I did. The other place I went to was Windjammers.
Right. Another one that's very high on a lot of people's list, but I don't think I've ever been there.
I went. I didn't eat these all myself, folks, but I went with a friend, and we got 4 different types. And there was a sweet Canadian. Brother Bill, I got to give him a shout out because he recommended these sweet Canadian, and they were really, really good. All right, real quick before we get out of here, Matt. So at the beginning, I want to go back to the very beginning, and my little rant here about an outlet erroneously reporting something, and I just feel like it's being treated by some people anyway like it's not a big deal. I'm calling him out because he's my boy, but Maniac is still, kind of going on well, there's sometimes, a source is wrong and blah, blah, blah. That's not wrong. That's lying to you, man. If you had either you're lying about having a source or your source lied to you because that's not even the part of his knee that he injured. So, I mean, it's not even a miscommunication there. There's nothing about what actually happened that aligns with anything that you said. So either your source lied to you or you don't have one. It's one or the other. Anyway, here's what I wanted to say. Why is Patrick being, so why is he so mad? Yada, yada, yada. It comes from experience. I'll share this. I'll call myself out because maybe this will help somebody else not do what I did or what this outlet just did today. I'm going all the way back, and a lot of people know about this, and I'll be real short because the details don't matter. I put out a report about Shawn Merriman being detained at the border about 12 years or so, at least 12 years ago. And it was wrong. Well, it was wrong, but it was more inaccurate. I was in such a rush. I just told you earlier, the phrase is be right, not first. I knew other people knew about it, and I wanted to be first. So I rushed something out. I did not verify with sources the way I should have. I rushed the report. It was just easy for him. It was easy deniability. Bam, story over because he did not get arrested. My whole point is this, Matt. I worked so hard on a blog for 3 or 4 years to establish myself, get credibility, build a following, and I did all that. And in one day, one report, one stupid thing that I did, that got wiped. I got dragged. It was a national story. I got dragged nationally because of that. I remember many outlets dragging me. The same ones that a day or two before that were reporting what Patrick Moran from Buffalo Sports Daily reported. They were killing me afterwards. I lost a ton of followers. I lost a ton of credibility. It took me literally years to win that back. So that's why I am like I am. That's why I'm so heated and why I'm reacting the way I am, because I've been through it. I've been on that other side. I've done it. I've reported on a source that was not 100% reliable. I did not have backup sources. And this, like the Max Harrison injury, this was a big story. I'm talking about a man, his livelihood, getting arrested or detained at the border, and it wasn't accurate. And I got freaking killed, and I deserved it. I deserved it. So that's why I am like I am towards stuff like that. So
I mean, that's why everyone should be that way, not
yeah,
like out of personal experience, but to avoid that personal experience.
I'm looking forward to seeing what they say about it. If nothing else, own it. But a little, I'm sorry, my source told me this. That's just not gonna. It's just not gonna cut it. Anyway,
Sure.
that's gonna end the show for today. I guess the moral of the story is: listen to Talking Buffalo, read SB Nation, read Buffalo Rumblings, listen to Lockdown Bills, listen to the outlets that you could trust, man, because it's just wild that people can just throw shit out there with no fear of consequence. Anyway, where are you?
Couple things before we go.
Yeah.
On Monday, I'll be back at a training camp. So if you're there, just make sure you say hi. And next week, SB Nation sites all over SB Nation, including at Buffalo Rumblings, are launching a brand new layout. It's going to be fan focused, conversation focused. So if you haven't been to Buffalo Rumblings in a while, make sure you check us out on Tuesday before you hear my next episode with you, Pat Moran. It's going to be a really good redesign. Stuff should load faster. You guys, it's really going to be a nice upgrade over at Buffalo Rumblings. So make sure you check that out next week.
Really nice. And I'll tell you what, I meant to do it today, but then this whole Max Searson stuff happened next week because you will be at camp again on Monday. We'll hook up next week. I kind of want you to take us, like I said, a little bit behind the scenes when you have a media pass and, you know, the press conference, just kind of talking to other media people who are out there. I'd like to share some of your experiences with that as well. So we'll do that next week. Big thank you to Matt Warren. By the way, most of you are listening to this sometime on Thursday. Stop up to Sunny Reds. Joe Marino, Jeremy White, WGR, both are going to be with me. We're live at 8 o'clock. Stop up before. I'm sure the guys would love to say hello to you. All right, guys, it's going to do it. Be back. Brand new show tomorrow.